something that is looked upon with great favor. So, if we change hands next week, the importance is, number one, we will start doing those oversight hearings, and all of those letters that I've written for the past 4 months about we should have a hearing here, we should call this person in, has set the paper trail for what life will be like January, February, March as we get into next year. Will I vote to repeal the bill? Absolutely. I voted against it in March. There's nothing in my study of this bill that has told me, or this law rather, that has told me that I was wrong with casting that no vote. And had I the chance tomorrow, I would do so. I would rip it out root and branch. But I also recognize from a pragmatic standpoint, yeah, we may have the numbers on the House to actually pass that. It's problematic whether the Senate will or not, but even if it did, it runs into a roadblock the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. And the President says, wait, this is my signature issue. I'm going to veto this bill and send it back to the House, and then we get into that interaction. But in the meantime, it is so important that, number one, we take the responsibility of oversight very seriously, and then we begin to slow down this implementation process. Remember when it passed, everyone said, oh, look, it's 2014, you got plenty of time, you know, maybe you'll take the majority and you can repeal it, and that was kind of the sort of the notion of how to control this thing. But it is going at warp speed. Things are being accelerated. Even as we talk, there are brand new federal agencies where the building is being rented in Bethesda, Maryland. Washington, D.C. has no unemployment problem. They are hiring up and staffing up brand new federal agencies, some of which Congress is not even aware that they're there. Where did the money come from? Good darn question. I don't know. We haven't done a single appropriations bill all year. Where are they getting the money to do this? They needed another $10 billion for implementation. I don't know how they got that. Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services gave $1 billion to IRS so that they could begin to staff up their group. But wait a minute, that's not how you do things. One federal agency cannot fund another federal agency. That's counterintuitive to our form of the government. If those funds are surplus and they need to be reprogrammed, Congress does that. Congress, remember, the House holds the purse strings, so that's the way it's supposed to happen. And right now, it is not happening that way. And it's a travesty. It is a tragedy that it's not happening that way. Look, you can go back to all the discussion of the health care bill. Were there opportunities missed by both sides? Sure enough. I thought the Texas liability provision would have been an obvious place. If we're going to do this, let's fix one of the more egregious problems. If we're going to take all of this money out of Medicare to fund a new entitlement, let's at least make a down payment on the problem that we have with not funding physician reimbursement and beginning to dig out of that hole that most doctors know is a sustainable growth rate formula. Those would have been ideas that we should have talked about, but they were never given really even a passing nod. It just went on and did what they were going to do, and now we're going to have to deal with it. But I do want to leave you on a positive note. And I am more optimistic about the future of the country right now than I've really been almost at any time in my adult life. And the reason for that is this Congress that is sworn in January is going to look decidedly different from any United States Congress you have ever seen before. On our side, and I don't know much about the candidates on the Democratic side other than the incumbents, but on our side, our group of candidates, we are likely to have more women in the Republican conference than ever before in history. I'm just a flat, you can make the statement, take it to the bank. When I arrived in Congress in 2003, the year before, J.C. Watts had retired. I had never served with a Republican African-American member. There will be at least 2, and possibly 4, and possibly 6 sworn in January of next year. That's a big deal, and that is a good thing from my estimation. And maybe the most important thing, there are 10 Republican doctors right now. One lost his primary, so he won't be back. But the other 9 presumably have the inside track to being reelected. At one time, there were 40 challengers who were doctors running for Republican nominations in their respective congressional districts. They all didn't make it, but there's a great number that did. And I feel pretty safe in saying this. Our number of 9 may increase by 5, 7, or even double in the next Congress. There are very likely to be more doctors serving in the next Congress than any time ever in the history of this country. And we know that's important because every time you elect a doctor to Congress, that means you've kept the lawyer out. So,